So if I do a study and I fail and I don't publish about it, then another scientist might try to do the same thing because they can find no written record of that what they're trying to do has already been tried and didn't work. So they try it again, they invest time, they invest money, they also find that it doesn't work, and again, they don't publish about it. And this continues on and on in a very inefficient manner.
Everyone, this is Alessandra from Material Pioneers. Today we will talk about sharing mistakes with Stefan Gaillard, co-founder of the journal of Trial and Error. You can find all of our interviews about inspiring people in science at www.materialpioneers.com. Let's go. Hi, hello, good morning. It's nice to have you here. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
It's very nice and inspiring to have you here. I'm really looking forward to see what we can share and what we can also share with everybody listening to us. So today we're going to be talking about trial and error, specifically about a journal that is named after that. But first of all, I would like to ask you, Stefan, what about your career path and how did you decide to become a scientist?
Yeah, so I have a somewhat eclectic career path. So in the Netherlands, almost everyone who finishes high school at a certain level, they just go to university. So when I started university, I didn't know yet that I wanted to become a scientist in the end. I started with chemistry, then I moved to history, and then I moved to psychology and history and philosophy of science. So very diverse. And I think somewhat around when I moved to my graduate degrees, I knew that I wanted to be a scientist. And that's because I'm very interested in finding out more about the world, how the world functions, and what we can learn from that and apply it again to the real world. And that's also how the Journal of Trial and Error was born. So we founded it during my graduate degree. And the idea was that failure or knowledge about things that don't work is also scientific knowledge. It's also knowledge about how the world works. So that was really the main idea at the start.
Yeah, this is very interesting. That's why I really wanted to hear your story. And we had a discussion previously about trial and error and sharing mistakes, which are not actually mistakes, but are just failures. The question is like, what do you think it's valuable to share? A lot of people are basically afraid of sharing their own mistakes because, well, of course, it's not good for publication to share what you've done wrong. But it definitely has a value. What do you think is the value behind it? And how do you think this can actually help the others?
I think there are two main values. So first is what I already talked about is finding out how the world works. So if we have the example of, for example, testing two different types of medicine or testing two types of material to see which one is more efficient for a certain application, we usually don't do just one study. We do multiple studies, and we do an analysis over all those studies to see which medicine is more effective than the other, or which material is more effective than the other, etc. But if we don't publish the studies that show that it doesn't work, then the analysis becomes completely flawed. Because if you have a medicine that doesn't work 9 out of the 10 cases, but we only publish the 1 in 10 cases where it does work, then your analysis is going to be completely flawed. So you get less information about what actually works when you try to apply it. And the second reason is more, I guess, practical for the scientists themselves, is that it saves time and money. So if I do a study and I fail and I don't publish about it, then another scientist might try to do the same thing because they can find no written record of what they're trying to do has already been tried and didn't work. So they try it again, they invest time, they invest money, they also find that it doesn't work, and again, they don't publish about it. And this continues on and on in a very inefficient manner.
yeah, this is also something we discussed about during our previous interview about open science. Yeah, basically the problem is this one, right? So if you fail and you don't share it, it sounds like nobody ever did it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So and this is also like a problem we already discussed with Pedro during our Changing Academia webinar. And yeah, I feel that all these steps are connected, and they all end up in the idea of opening up your lab, opening up your research a little bit more, and these can definitely lead to making an impact, a bigger impact than you ever thought with your research, even with your failures. Right?
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's also why we need to change the structure of how science is rewarded. So if you don't incentivize scientists to publish about their failures, then you keep having this problem, even though for the individual scientists it's very inefficient, but because the system doesn't reward publishing about failure, you will keep having that problem.
Yeah, so just to get like a practical idea, what would be like the best tips you would like to give to everybody that is willing to start this path, that is willing to share failures? What will they do?
Yeah, so I think there are a multitude of ways that you can open up about failure. I think one way that's already happening is talking about it at conferences. So talking about failure at conferences happens, I think, more because there's no published record of it. So you're more free to share with colleagues and in the future. But this is not optimal, because those who don't attend conferences, for example, often people from less financially secure institutions, they don't have the opportunity to go to many conferences. So they don't gain this information in that way. So therefore, I think it's far more optimal to publish about it. So publishing about the failures, which also helps in sort of the quantum of publications that many scientists nowadays have to reach. But this needs to be coupled with people at the university, at the management level, explicitly acknowledging this type of publications. So there needs to be, when you're, for example, having this checklist of whether you want to hire someone for a postdoc, there should be more explicit acknowledgement for publishing about your failure. And that also, I think, ties into the third way that you can open up about failure, which is, for example, doing interviews. We're at the Journal of Trial and Error, we're doing interviews with more senior scientists about failure career, and having these more senior scientists talk about all the ways in which they failed during their careers helps open up the discourse around failure. It makes it more it makes it easier for junior scientists to also acknowledge that they failed, because such a senior scientist is giving the example.
So yeah, it's basically about publishing about your failures, and yeah, if you have the chance, go to conferences and talk about it, and and trying to get in touch with senior scientists that are basically talking about their failures, or promote this type of discussions during universities and all the type of meetings that are in academia, right?
Yeah, but so that's what you can do as a more junior scientist. But I also think there's a burden on more senior scientists to do this, because they are more secure in their positions. They are less likely to lose, for example, career opportunities in the future. I really think that there is a burden on them to start doing this, to start opening up about this.
It is very interesting. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing this with us. Let's keep in touch. All this information and like all the video and all this information are going to be stored on our website, materialpioneers.com, where you can not only find the interview with Stefan, but you can also find the interview with all the other scientists and researchers we are getting in touch to get more information, to get this change happen. So thank you so much, and
thank you for having me.
And talk to you soon.